Today we're at Windrock. Nice dry day, so it's a good time to ride this trail. We're gonna hit Cave Boy, as the sign says, and then first opportunity we have to jump onto Snake Rock, we're gonna do that. Cave Boy, as you can see, is marked blue, and it holds pretty true to that, at least through the point that we're gonna be on it. And then we will jump onto Snake Rock, as I said, which is marked black, and there definitely are some sections in that that are kind of Windrock steep, if you will. So we'll look at that in a little bit. So Cave Boy starts out with a couple of jumps. Excuse my slide out in that mud. And these are pretty medium sized. Here we are, just a couple turns into Cave Boy. Here's the second double. And this one's about 15 feet to clear it comfortably coming out of that berm corner. Definitely blue by Windrock standards. And there's that double shark fin. These two first jumps are actually quite a bit of fun. You just gotta pull a little bit if you're not going fast and you're on a bigger bike. They do have knuckles on them, so you have to hit them with some confidence. But other than that, they're not so bad. And most of what makes this trail blue for Windrock standards is the steepness of these berms and just the kind of rocky gnarliness of some of the trail. Here we're about 3 or so of those steep berms into the trail, and for a little bit of perspective here on the steepness, you can see my bike is probably 8 feet or so above my head, and then right behind it, of course, there's another berm that goes up by this white tape, and then another one. So they are pretty steep here. Try and get a little sense of the grade, and they are really quite tight, so definitely something you want to hit slow the first time, but as long as you can manage your speed well in steep terrain, you can kind of pick your way through these without too much trouble. So managing speed through here is really the biggest challenge. And after those berms, we get a pretty long straight section that will end up in kind of an awkward left-hand corner into a small rollable rock garden. And after that, we'll get a couple awkward bits, and then we'll jump on a Snake Rock. So here's that funky left and rock garden I mentioned. Pretty steep there. This is the small rock garden after the long straightaway. I put my bike right after the left-hand turn and right before the rock garden, so you can kind of see how far up that is. Still hard to tell on camera even without the wide zoom lens, but it's a good feeling you get here of what Windrock steep is like. And here's that little catch berm corner right before we pick up Snake Rock. This is a fun bit of trail, but that is pretty steep right there. But as long as you come into it slow, you can hold your speed back. And this is where we pick up Snake Rock. And Snake Rock is mostly pretty tame. I think the thing that makes this trail tricky, for me at least, is how steep and off camber some of the bits are. And I will not ride this in the wet, because I just can't seem to feel comfortable on it. I think a lot of that's because the difficulty of this trail, at least for me, is that your back end will break loose so easy on these steeper and, of course, off camber bits that it's really a challenge to try and hold your speed down, because there's some places you really just can't grab much brake or you slide right out. And of course, when it's wet, that's even more exaggerated. And here's one of those examples. So I try and come into this slow, because you really need this catch berm. Here we're looking at the first really steep off-camber section in Snake Rock. You can see the bike up there. It's obviously quite a way up the hill. The hill right there is so steep that I have my pedal sitting on the dirt and it's holding the bike up. So that's a good reference. And this is the bit where you really just cannot stop until you get down through this and hit that catch berm down there, because it's just so steep and off camber. Your brakes are just gonna end up washing out your back wheel. So be very careful through these off camber bits not to get too aggressive on the rear brake. To get out of that, and of course some of those I just can't go slow enough to really catch the trail surface, so just have to do what I can. And this is a pretty awkward corner, but if you hit it in the right spot, you can still roll that nice and slow. Here we're just a little bit further down the trail. I wanted to get a shot of this awkward turn that I was talking about, just get a little sense of what we're looking at. And for perspective, get down here where it finally levels out and see if I can get a decent shot up at the turn. Definitely want to try and swing this high, come down that middle bit where you can stand the dirt. Those roots are definitely bad news here. Another off-camber bit, which dumps right into some new trail as of the last several months. And this, in the wet, is really, really slick. So here's that last long, steep section of Snake Rock
once you turn that corner,
as it comes down around. And this bit is just right when it's dry, but when it's wet, this section right in through here will just take your back wheel right out from under you. So a lot of the better riders can do it without too much trouble, but when it's wet, I just won't ride this because of this section, just so steep. And now we really just have the gnarly rock stuff left, which you just kind of got to pick your way through. Here we are toward the end of Snake Rock in that kind of rocky chute, and it is pretty gnarly. A lot of these little rock faces and little drops are a couple few feet. You can roll all this, as you probably saw in the POV, but once you get through this last section around the corner, you're just about home free. So just hold on and enjoy the momentary panic if this is some of the harder stuff you've ridden. And programming note, Snake Rock is now officially labeled red, not black. If you see it on the trail map, you'll see it marked black, but the signs are red now, which when I compare it to blue and black out here is probably pretty fair. And in this section I find left is a little bit easier, and then swing far right. And right around this corner, you pretty much pull out of the technical stuff. And then finally, just over these next couple of rises, we'll join up with the end of the dropout. If you take the full dropout line, And then that dumps into the common run out trail for everything in this section of the mountain. Okay, excuse my brakes. And that is Cave Boy Snake Rock. At this point in the trail, since all the other trails run out here, I'm not going to bother running this slow to catch the trail surface. I'll just run it at what I consider a normal speed. Nothing too nasty in here. Of course, it depends on how fast you're going, I guess. There it is.